Hi everyone, I'm Tyler and this is my husband Dylan, and we'd like to show you through our sustainable passive home today. Before we start with the tour, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We'd like to pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and take you through our home today.
Coming through. So as a carpenter, as a builder, working in the space, I always had a passion for sustainability. So after I finished my passive house course, I actually resigned from what I was doing and decided to create all projects, which was going to focus on retrofitting existing buildings to passive house standard, which is also known as Enefit. And when we first created the business, I quickly found out that not a lot of clients want to use a builder that's never done an Enefit as their first Enefit. So we decided to purchase this property, a leaky old 1950s weatherboard, and do it ourselves first and create a bit of a showcase, and hopefully other clients can, adopt and use this method for their own projects.
Welcome to our home. As a builder and a landscape architect, we had some really good knowledge of how we could repurpose and reuse materials in our home and just really create a small footprint on the environment as we were building.
Passive house standard is undoubtedly top tier for the home's operational energy, but when you can apply passive house to an existing building, you also tackle embodied energy. You're extending the lifespan of an existing structure. When you build a new home, you generally have carbon debt, which kind of exists with the building materials that you use for the project. So when a home's constructed from new, each product that gets used in that particular project has the entire process attached to it. So it's the extraction, the manufacturing, transport, everything on site, and then the recycling attached to it as well at the end of life. So when we found this particular project, we identified a lot of the existing resources we could reuse on the same site.
Some really great examples of how we've repurposed materials in the home today that we'd like to share with you is in our main bathroom. We have milled up some existing timbers that came out of the framing of the existing home. We had them milled into beautiful vanities that you just can't buy this sort of stuff off the shelf, and it tells a story as well. You can see the old nail holes and just that history in the timber. Another feature of our bathrooms and what we tried to do in the house is use stone offcuts. So finding offcuts at stonemasons and stone suppliers meant that we were using something that's just going to get smashed up and go to landfill.
A lot of people, when they think passive house or sustainable building, they think new homes. But unfortunately, if we just knocked all the houses down in Australia and built passive houses, all the embodied energy and carbon targets would just surpass where they need to be. So we need to get in and do the nitty-gritty, the grunt work, and retrofit these buildings. These floorboards are another great example. These were existing boards that we pulled up and we stored on site for about 8 months, and then we relayed them all back down, had them sanded, and the result speaks for itself. Gorgeous, beautiful hardwood floors. You just can't buy this sort of timber off the shelf anymore.
One of the great things when visitors come and see our home, they're always commenting on how homely it is, and I think that really comes back to this reuse of timbers and materials and this story that it tells.
When you retrofit an existing building, you keep the history and the stories that comes with the building when you start the project. So we've got neighbours that we've met since moving in here that have lived in the street for 50 years and still keep in contact with the original owners of this house. And they update them about the project, and there's still that connection, the history and the stories of that family living here for decades. You'd actually be quite surprised throughout the entire project. There's little dots and bits of material reuse throughout the entire home and through the landscape as well.
Yeah, so we've got recycled battens that form a lot of our cladding out the back. We pulled down an old chimney at the front of the house, and that's now incorporated into a new chimney as part of my landscape design. All of our window reveals internally and externally as well are all recycled timbers that we've pulled from the property. So along with just the aesthetic value of it looking great, this reuse does save you money, and it is, limiting our environmental impact as we build it.
Yeah, I think it's talked about a lot, the payback of not using energy and all that sort of thing. All that's data driven and can be very measured quite easily, but the health benefits is something that you can't really measure, because it's down to human interaction and how we behave.
Prior to moving into the home, I was sick constantly and forever, just getting colds and just feeling generally unwell. And dog Rocco's here to join us. He loves it in here because it's climate controlled. But yeah, not being sick for the last 6 months and just generally feeling so much better.
Acoustic performance is another huge kind of byproduct of building like this. You wouldn't know, but just over that back fence there is the Eastern Freeway, and when you're inside the building you can't hear it at all. You can sleep and it's nice and peaceful and quiet, and it's just a really calming space.
You're just like in your own little sanctum in here, which is really, really cool.
There's obviously a lot of pollution and things that comes off all of that, which is completely mitigated by the heat recovery ventilation system. So I think we are going through filters maybe more than some if you weren't living this close, but to know that that's dealing with all that pollution and it's not going into their lungs is a good feeling. I think when a lot of people hear passive house, benefit, high performance, deep energy retrofit, all these sorts of terms, it can get a bit confusing and it sounds very high tech, but if you find yourself a builder, passive house builder, a passive house architect, it's not rocket science. It's easy building. There's a step-by-step process to follow. And it's achievable by any builder who wants to just put themselves at it and learn the process. I think it's really exciting for this project where we've been able to hit energy efficiency, health, comfort, a beautiful space, and it is achievable and affordable as well.